Why India will not break under US pressure? How has India prepared for the great trade test? And what are the signs of India's readiness? India's exports to US are under attack, jobs are at risk, and sectors face shock. And there's a possibility that even after all this, India might not bend. This is not being stubborn, this is based on 5 key pillars of resilience which are going to make it possible for India to put through this US pressure and come out stronger of it. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to understand that what India holds against this intense pressure that is coming from Western countries in form of tariffs, especially US, to go against the allies and hurt India's economy. But India is prepared for this, and how it is prepared we are going to understand today. When we talk about the imposition of tariffs on India, the retaliation from India has come in very silent and direct ways, yet it has avoided all means of spiraling of this into a tariff war. So this all began when US imposed 25% tariff on India and plus 25% for buying Russian oil, and as of now we are standing at 50% tariff from US, which is going to affect our labor intensive sectors such as electrical machinery, pharmaceutical products, nuclear machinery, pearls, precious stones, mineral fuels, etc. If I talk about the number, then almost 50 billion, equivalent to 50 billion worth of Indian exports are at risk. But as I said in the starting, that if everything goes right, there is preparedness and we might be able to come out stronger out of this particular storm. When we are talking about 5 key pillars, let us understand these key pillars. The first one is the strong macroeconomic fundamentals that lie in front of us. We have second one as the consumption-led economy. The third is the accelerated structural reforms and Make in India momentum. Furthermore, diversified trade partnerships and sector-specific resilience is going to help us fare through these struggling times. Now let us understand all of these in detail one by one in simpler manner. So when we talk about the first and second pillar, it is based on the robust macroeconomic fundamentals that are lying in front of us. As of now, based on IMF, International Monetary Fund, which has retained the growth of GDP growth of India at 6.5%, and it has retained the status of India as the fastest growing major economy in the world. This in itself is a big label which clarifies the fact that even after such heat coming from US, where actually our labor intensive sectors are at exposure, our exports will be hurt, we seem to be standing strong and we might be able to fare through it. Another good news that came in for Indian economy was the rating by S&P Global, which was upgraded recently from BBB minus to BBB, and that has happened after 18 years. This shows that there is investor confidence and India is capable of attracting better capital inflow also at lower borrowing cost as well. So this strengthened fundamentals. Apart from that, we also have few other numbers where we need to understand that what is the threat perception that lies here in terms of US hurting our export. So if we talk about the threat perception, the export exposure is just 1% of India's GDP, and as of now, because of the foreign exchange reserves which are going very strong, and we have low current account deficit and the fiscal discipline that we have been maintaining, this gives us a clear buffer against external shock. Now, this particular number has been varying in places to 1% to 2.2%, but the whole idea is to understand that what portion of economy is under threat and how we can cover through it, other means, and what is the buffer in between. So when we talk about forex reserves, I would also like to highlight another important point here is the RBI's circular number 8, which came on August 5 and which facilitated special Vostro accounts, rupee based accounts, so that the facilitation in settlement of trade in rupees can happen with 30 plus countries in just rupees, and that will be a direct way to bypass dollar, which is another mean to establish internationalization of rupee. Definitely it is not a direct mean of de-dollarization as what we have said, but yes, it is going to save us the forex costs and also facilitate us to stand stronger based on our currency, where we have seen rupee also standing strong in the last month against dollar. Now the rating upgrade from the S&P Global, it will give us reduced borrowing cost and it will also help us in attracting capital flow. And this sounds good for a developing economy in this particular heated up global chaotic world that we are part of. Now let us move to the second pillar. The second pillar is the domestic economy that we are looking forward to. So when we talk about 60% of GDP, it comes directly from domestic consumption, and we want this domestic consumption to increase so that the export that is expected to go down, that demand can be fulfilled from the domestic economy itself. That is why there has been a push for Swadeshi 2.0, and this has also been further facilitated with simplification of GST, where we will be getting two-tiered GST. A lot of products which are in the range of 12% will come down to 5%, and which are in 28% will come to 18%. And furthermore, we have another good news from SBI report. If the reforms will be there in place, they will bring in 5 lakh crore, more than 5 lakh crore in terms of spending. That means it is almost equivalent to 1.6% of GDP. That will always help us to at least balance off the loss that might come in from the end of USA. So the whole strategy here is to absorb the export shock by strengthening our own domestic economy and consumption in terms of demand internally itself. So for example, let's just say GST simplification leads to estimated consumption boost of almost 2 lakh crores, that is 0.6% of GDP. Income tax cuts that have been given, that leads to almost, if we are talking about 4 lakh crores, which will be coming in 1% in form of GDP, and we will get boost of 1.6% in totality from two pillars itself. Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 will only facilitate that. Now let us move to Pillar 3 that we were talking about. When we are talking about Pillar 3, it is solely based on the fact that we have to come in with structural reforms. The time to bring in the reforms is now. If we don't change it now, then we might not be able to use this crisis-laden time to build it into an opportunity and get out of this tunnel. So in this scenario, we are focusing to use this time into bringing reforms in a quicker and faster manner. For example, GST simplification is not just to facilitate internal demand, it is also to facilitate the businesses that are operating. Jan Vishwas 2.0 bill, which is in the parliament, it is also to facilitate businesses so that we have structured accelerated reforms and we see the economy booming at this very point of time. We have also introduced FDI liberalization. 100% FDI, automatic FDI is allowed in key sectors. Can you put it down in the comment that which are the key sectors which have been facilitated with 100% FDI automatic route, and it will be helpful in this particular scenario. Furthermore, schemes like PLI, production linked incentive based scheme, which has had mixed overall result, but we have seen absolute success if we talk about the scheme in terms of smartphones as well as electronics. These are those sectors which have been exempted by tariffs, and these are the sectors which actually need help in terms of absorbing the export shock that comes in from US. Furthermore, the whole idea of these structural reforms is the shift. As of now, we have been focusing only on low-tech exports, but we are planning to switch. These reforms are aimed to switch towards high-value manufacturing. This is something that Japan did just after World War II to move way faster than us towards being a developed economy. So India is targeting high value manufacturing, which brings into value addition, which actually has the most cost present in here. Now with this, we have understood three major pillars. Now let us move to the fourth one that is present in front of us. The fourth pillar clearly focuses on the fact that the trade that we were doing with US, it is going to be wiped off in one manner or the other. How can we compensate from that? If we are focusing on internal demand, that is one way. But what if we bring new partners in terms of global trade? So we are focusing on trade diversification and also such partnerships which are strategic in nature. So that means we don't want to be dependent on a model which is absolutely US centric, and in this scenario UK FTA, which has been recently finalized, where we are finding that tariff free access for 99% exports is present. If you want to understand this in detail, there is a video that you can watch. I have done it already. Here we are signing deal with European Free Trade Association. Can you tell me in the comment section which are the countries which belong to this particular organization, specifically from Europe? This will also help us to tap the market in Europe, and then we have upcoming EU FTA, which is at advanced level of conversation talks, and it will help 17% of India's exports directly. Furthermore, we are already reaching out to Global South, not just to help us in terms of trade, but also our global image, because this is our chance to become the leader, the representative of Global South in such a scenario where US is trying to bully us, and we can show them a path that how we can stand up for our own selves and as well as for them. So being the bigger brother which India has always propagated, being the Vishwa Guru, Vishwa Mitra, this is India's chance in this very scenario, and that is why outreaching to Global South has been very well paying India in this very context. Furthermore, the whole idea behind pillar number 4 is to build a multipolar, resilient trade network which can bear shocks, because diversification is such. To summarize pillar 4 for you in brief, is just that India does not want to put all of its trade eggs only into one basket with a particular country. It just wants to diversify it. Now we will be moving to pillar number 5, which is the final pillar on which we are basing the fact that India will be able to resiliently move out of this turbulent time and come out stronger. So in the 5th pillar itself, the idea is a strategic outlook and assessing the risk at the very same time. So when we are talking about being resilient, we have to specially focus on the sectors that might be hurt the most. So the sector specific resilience has to be maintained, and furthermore at the global order we also need to come with a firm national stance, which we have already told so. So in terms of sector specific resilience, for example pharma, if we talk about almost $88 billion industry that will be by 2030, this has been exempted for tariffs from India. Fintech in e-commerce, it is mainly domestic driven, it is comparatively insulated to shocks, we need to focus on that. And EVs, which is already showing tremendous growth, it has already been given 100% FDI. So we are also not just focusing on the macroeconomic picture, but sector specific. That means at the meso level, we are also looking into that. The government support has also increased, where we are looking towards that there will be revival of emergency credit line guarantee scheme, which was collateral free loans for MSMEs back in 2020 during the COVID times. That will be revived. We are going to look at ROSCATL extension, wherein we will find that the state and the central government is responsible for refunds of the taxes and levies that is seen on the startups, MSMEs, etc. So this is basically rebate of state central taxes and levies, and then we also have RODTEP refunds, and with this we have been very firmly and out there when we are clear that we will be looking towards our financial sovereignty will not be dictated by external powers, and we are going to protect our agriculture and dairy farmers. So when you want to understand more about this core issue, you can go and watch a video I've already done, that how India does not want the dairy farming or the dairy market to be open for US. But at the same time, when the picture seems so rosy that we are so much prepared, there is so much preparedness and everything is sorted, we will come better out of this, we also need to be aware of risks. That as much as it seems all on the bright side, we might be able to pull all of this, there are risks and challenges that we also need to be prepared for. Because the moment these tariffs are on the floor and they will start hitting real time, we have to be ready for absolute shock as well as job losses. If we talk about the competitive advantage, we are at a disadvantageous position, because if we look at the tariffs of the neighboring countries, if we talk about Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, only 20%. But if we talk about India, for apparels, we have 60%. So here we are at a disadvantageous position. Furthermore, we also need to look into all the schemes, not just PLI, when they did not work out. We need to celebrate the wins, but we need to understand the losses, because they can't be repeated in such hectic times, and the execution speed of the real reforms, which will be very important. It cannot be stuck into red tapeism and other usual hurdles at this point of time. Now, what do you think? Will India be actually able to come out of this stronger, or at least staying its ground? Or do you think that India will suffer? You can put it down in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.